This is the world's largest known collection of octopuses, known as the Octopus Garden. Here, some 2 miles below the ocean's surface, thousands of species have congregated in one place. Despite its name, the garden is completely natural. People did not construct it. It is located along the central California coast. People all over the world were shocked when researchers discovered millions of octopuses breeding on the deep ocean floor in 2018. When the researchers eventually put everything together after years of intensive investigation, they had a lot to learn. I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, to hit the like button. Additionally, the octopuses in this garden were upside down, with their limbs twisted and encircling their bodies in incredibly odd ways. They appear to have been turned inside out. In the center of the 820-acre octopus garden, scientists found 5,718 octopuses occupying a 6-acre region. Based on the team's estimations, the whole number of octopuses in the garden may surpass 20,000. It turns out that the reason these deep-sea octopuses of the species Muso-Octopus robustus migrate to the garden is so they can mate and build a nest, that is, they come here simply to propagate their species and for no other purpose. The male and female octopuses first appear in the garden. The females are searching for a warm spot to deposit their clutch of about 60 long, sausage-shaped eggs, and the hatching mothers shield the eggs with their bodies to keep out intruding predators. This is the reason why women squirm so much. It's a protective stance. Using reserves of their own tissues, females care for the developing eggs and themselves during the incubation phase. It's important to note that the garden located in California contains the greatest concentration of octopuses that scientists have ever found. As a result, because octopuses breed in gardens like this, they are also known as nurseries. Not far off the coast of Costa Rica, another nursery was found. Despite this, experts were nevertheless taken aback by the finding in California, mostly due to the sheer quantity of octopuses and the fact that they are usually solitary animals that prefer cold water. The scientists' observations did not agree entirely with the body of knowledge. The heat from the hydrothermal vent, where these octopuses were sitting, aided in the eggs' quicker development. It's that simple. Embryos develop more slowly in colder water. Scientists who observed the garden anticipated that the octopus eggs would hatch at freezing point in approximately 5 to 8 years, or potentially even later. Unexpectedly, young octopuses appeared in less than 2 years. The additional energy from the heat is utilized to feed their eggs. The more energy, the quicker the octopuses hatch. But everything has its bounds. It is not possible to increase the temperature even more and expect the octopuses to develop so quickly that they hatch in a week and mature into adults right away. Research on the Maya octopus species indicates that when the water temperature rises beyond 80 degrees Fahrenheit, female octopuses entirely cease laying, and those that have already been deposited will decompose in a few days. Garden octopuses die after mating, just like the majority of other cephalopods. Males die right away, while females pass away after giving birth to their young. The scavengers will always have food because there are so many dead animals in one area that it's almost like a buffet. It's not as though some females, for instance, want to undergo another reproductive cycle after becoming fortunate enough to survive one. Females simply do not hunt throughout the 2-year incubation period. Instead, they rely only on the food they have already accumulated before entering the maternal phase. The invertebrates wait for their incubation to come to a finish in the interim. For instance, you may watch an anemone eating a dead octopus in this video. It was worth waiting. Whatever their species or location, female octopus's propensity for self-destruction is a subject of immense scientific curiosity. Although many animal species perish after mating, the mother octopus's actions are particularly unsettling. Once they have served their reproductive purpose, some of them not only cease eating, but actively attempt to take their own lives by whatever means. These ladies have the ability to rip off flesh, smash into rocks, and even eat pieces of their own tentacles. It appears to be utterly absurd. Recently, substances have been discovered by researchers that seem to control this behavior. An octopus's physiology undergoes changes after it lays its eggs, including an increase in the synthesis of steroid hormones and a biochemical shift that ultimately determines its demise. But we'll talk about that in another video. Now let's return to the garden. The manner that nesting female octopus relocate their bodies to keep scavengers away from their eggs was observed by a time-lapse camera. Scavengers never stop hunting even when they have an abundance of food, especially in the deep water when food is in short supply. The carcasses of the octopus are consumed by large scavengers such as anemones, mud eels, and huge grenadiers. Given that the garden provides 72% more food for scavengers than the nearby waters, they must be very content down there. Comparably stony underwater regions have a less diverse and sparser animal population. The mother dies, eaten by scavengers, and a new male or female quickly replaces the emergence of the young, which go off to live and grow somewhere else. Recall that they select warm, cozy sites for their nests, but there are only so many of them. Besides, even though octopuses are clever animals, it is unlikely that they would give a damn about who perished there. Nature is harsh, it just cares about ensuring that its progeny survive and procreate, everything else is irrelevant. A fresh cycle starts. Groups of octopuses were considered by scientists to be something exceptional, almost like a rare discovery and an exception to the rule, until lately. However, octopus gardens are becoming more and more common these days, and they're not necessarily clustered together. This seems to be a more widespread phenomena than previously believed. 5 deep-sea octopus nurseries have been found thus far. 2 are located off the coasts of Central California, Costa Rica, and Canada's Vancouver Island. The first nursery was found in 2013 at a hydrothermal spring 10,000 feet below the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. It had a cluster of more than 100 octopuses. Nothing came of the eggs that these octopuses incubated. The octopus nursery near Mount Davidson that we highlighted in our film turned out to be the second one to be found. Then, in 2019, another one was found not too far from Sada, roughly 10 miles, to be exact, which is a long way for octopuses. Scientists have found 2 new nurseries recently, one in Costa Rica and one in Canada, in 2023. Let's examine the newest nursery in more detail. It all began with methane bubbles that burst and bubbled up from the ocean floor, forming carbonate rocks that became animal habitats later on. Pacific Grenadon octopuses have chosen to rear their young in these locations despite the cold. It turns out that the record for the longest incubation period belongs to this deep-sea organism. For 4.5 years, the female tends to her nest. If it weren't for the dormant volcano that kept the animals warm in our movie, maybe other creatures would have shattered this record. How octopuses found their nests is one of the most fascinating mysteries to biologists. They may discover it, or they may happen onto a future nursery and think it's a beautiful sight. When the time comes to play, get back to the spot you remembered. How far octopuses move to breeding locations and if they return to their birthplace like salmon are yet unknown. Because of their excellent sense of smell, octopuses can identify the aroma of many of their departed family members, even after some anemones have devoured them. These locations appear to require protection. Indeed, Mount Davidson and its Garden of Octopuses are safeguarded as a component of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Deep-sea regions are threatened by mining, fishing, and climate change. It is vital to preserve the special habitat where marine animals congregate for mating or feeding. However, a thorough inspection of the garden is necessary for successful protection. Scientists are at this point because many fascinating features remain undiscovered despite prior study efforts. It is currently forbidden to look for or extract oil, gas, or any other valuable resource from the wildlife reserve's borders. It's also forbidden to drill any kind of excavation and to build structures. A ship cannot be abandoned if it unintentionally runs aground in this region. Leaving any dangerous materials on board is also forbidden, as is anchoring the ship and leaving it unattended. Substance disposal is forbidden, as are interactions with native animals, the introduction of non-native species, the use of motorboats to draw great white sharks, and even flying extremely low over the ocean. This is by no means an exhaustive list. Since the reserve takes great pride in keeping an eye on all restrictions, it is recommended to stay away from this area altogether to prevent unintentionally breaching any. They patrol via air, sea, and land. Rangers essentially keep a careful eye on everything, and the area is patrolled by big patrol ships and small boats. The majority of individual breaches typically take place quickly and in tiny spaces. Nonetheless, some infractions, such hunting birds or marine creatures, happen regularly across the area. Punishments are ineffective at deterring rule-breaking. Violations on the reservation may result in civil penalties of up to $140,000 a day. Those who violate the regulations may be subject to fines as well as costs associated with having their disarray and restoration of the surrounding environment. Boats, tools, and other equipment related to the infraction may be seized until the court makes a decision. It is typically the case that violations of one set of restrictions on a wildlife preserve also indicate violations of other federal and state laws. This may result in fines, the potential for goods to be seized, an arrest, or possibly criminal charges. Just so you know, interfering with investigations or law enforcement activities within the reservation is also considered a criminal offense. It's amazing how scientists weren't afraid to study octopuses. The power of science, right? Did you remember to click the like button? If not, it's not too late. Until later.